It's Friday, June 19th, 2026. Happy Juneteenth. Welcome to episode 207 of the Alameda Postcast, an audio service of the Alameda Post. I'm your host, Scott Peeler. In this edition of the Postcast, the City Council adopts a new plan, a shooting at Crown Beach, a planning board preview, one of the world's top sailors is headed to Alameda, a changing of the guard on Coast Guard Island, beer downtown, and birds and bites at Alameda Point. Activities for your weekend, including ways to say, "Thanks, Dad." These stories and more on this episode of the Alameda Postcast. Our top story, as previewed by Karen Jensen in last week's episode, on Tuesday, City Council addressed the subject of renters' utility rates and affordable housing. Let's take a look at the details. If you're a renter in Alameda, there are multiple ways you might pay for your utilities. If you've got your own meters, it's fairly straightforward. When there is one master meter for the entire property, landlords can include utilities with the rent, charge a monthly flat fee as established in the rental agreement, or use a ratio utility billing system, or RUBS, to allocate utility costs proportionally based on square footage, number of bedrooms, or number of tenants. During public comment, Jennifer Rizzo of the California Apartment Association urged council to reject a ban on RUBS, saying, quote, "For many older apartment buildings, RUBS is one of the few practical tools available to allocate shared utility costs," end quote. Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft disagreed, calling the situation, quote, "a matter of fundamental fairness," end quote. Vice Mayor Michelle Pryor agreed, saying, quote, "It's uncomfortable when you're being charged and you don't know why or how much," end quote. Councilmember Tony Dasog expressed skepticism that the number of complaints warranted a complete overhaul, saying, quote, "I'm not convinced that 16 concerns a year about how their utilities are being charged rises to a level of doing a wholesale change to the RUBS regime," end quote. Ashcraft and Pryor reiterated that 64 total complaints in 4 years are just the tip of the iceberg, and sought the advice of City Attorney Yiben Shen, who noted that even if there were to be additional transparency for utility fees, landlords could just disclose massive fees and still have the authority to charge for them. In the end, the vote was 3-1 in favor of abolishing RUBS, with Councilmember Dasog dissenting and Greg Bowler recusing himself on the grounds that he is a rental property owner. In other business, Council unanimously approved an amendment to the Alameda Marina Master Plan to reduce the number of affordable housing units for that project's third and final phase, known as the Foundry. Originally set for a mixture of 43 moderate to very low-income units, the project would now contain 21 very low-income units, in keeping with new guidance from the recently passed amendment to the city's inclusionary housing ordinance. Full details in Ken Durr's article at alamedapost.com/news. Last Thursday night, after episode 206 had already been uploaded, a large beach takeover turned violent as a shooting sent 2 victims to a local hospital. When contacted for a statement on Friday, June 12th, Alameda Police Public Information Officer Michaelia Parker responded to the Alameda Post, quote, "APD is currently investigating a shooting incident that occurred just after 9 p.m. last night. 2 victims were transported to local hospitals and their conditions are unknown at this time. This is a very active investigation and we are still gathering information. No additional details are available for release at the moment," end quote. In a group email on Saturday, City Councilmember Tracy Jensen wrote, quote, "APD and East Bay Regional Parks Police had advance notice of the gathering and worked together to respond. Uniformed personnel were significantly outnumbered by several hundred young people that began yelling, blocking traffic, and disregarding police instruction. At a site close to the Big Five, one person discharged an assault rifle, striking 2 individuals. Both victims were transported to the local hospital. One is in critical condition," end quote. No further details have been shared, and APD has not announced any arrests in connection with the incident. The Alameda Post has reached out to the city and APD for additional comment and details. The Post will share additional information when it becomes available. Story and updates at alamedapost.com/news. On Monday, the Planning Board will address 2 proposals, one of which is very timely as the World Cup tournament continues. The Oakland Roots and Soul Sports Club proposes to temporarily host professional soccer matches for crowds of up to 8,000 at its Harbor Bay training facility while seeking a permanent home. The proposal would allow the club to stage up to 25 large events annually with crowds of up to 8,000, along with smaller sporting events at its 17-acre site adjacent to Oakland International Airport for an estimated 3 to 5 years. All this while the Roots and Soul continue pursuing a permanent solution with the Port of Oakland. To accommodate spectators, the club would install modular grandstands, a press box, field lighting, sound system, video scoreboard, concession areas, restrooms, and other temporary event infrastructure. Matches would take place between March and November, mostly on weekends, with the venue also potentially hosting youth, college, and amateur soccer events. The club does not intend to hold concerts or music festivals at the site. A key issue for the planning board will be transportation and neighborhood impacts. The routes plan to rely on shared parking agreements with nearby business park properties, shuttle service from the Coliseum BART station, valet bicycle parking, and other transportation demand management measures. Planning staff is also considering conditions addressing traffic management, security staffing, noise control, lighting restrictions, and limits on event hours, including ending most large weekday events by 10 p.m., weekend events by 11. No formal decision will be made at this stage, and environmental review remains ongoing. City staff expects the project to return for future hearings on a use permit and design review application before final approval is granted. Planning staff will also propose amendments to the city's ADU ordinance that would allow ADUs to be converted into condominiums and sold separately from primary homes, a change they say would encourage more ADU construction and create new pathways to home ownership. Details, including ways you can participate, are in Karen Jensen's article at alamedapost.com/news. The weekend of September 11th through the 13th brings the return of the Island Yacht Club's premier event, the 34th Annual Women's Sailing Seminar. The Women's Sailing Seminar, the largest sailing seminar for women in Northern California. WSS creates a fun, safe, and supportive learning environment and brings together women from all over the country for a weekend of classroom instruction and hands-on, on-the-water education. This year's keynote address will be delivered by Britain's Pip Hare, journalist, sailing coach, and solo around-the-world sailor. In addition to Pip Hare, the seminar features workshops, on-the-water coaching, and a community crew party to allow participants to connect with local skippers, crew, marine professionals, and community partners. Don't have a boat? No worries. Alameda's network of yacht clubs offers multiple opportunities for sailors without their own craft. Registration now open for the event. Details at alamedapost.com/alameda-life. The folks tasked with keeping our waterways safe held a change of watch ceremony on June 10th as Master Chief Petty Officer Jason Bryant was formally recognized as the new Coast Guard Base Alameda Command Master Chief, replacing the outgoing Master Chief William Walker. Story and photo on the Alameda Post Facebook page. If you noticed a lot of folks wandering around Park Street with lanyards on Saturday, those were the folks enjoying the annual Rock and Roll Beer Stroll. With all 3 island brewers participating, along with brewers from around the East Bay and beyond, the weather was perfect for sipping and strolling. $1 of each admission was donated to All Good Living, the nonprofit that provides food, clothing, and other necessities to low-income residents. The event is one of multiple strolls presented by the Downtown Alameda Business Association. Full details and pictures at alamedapost.com/alameda-life. On the subject of Downtown Alameda, I hope you can join me Sunday morning at 8 a.m. on KCSM HD2 or streaming at kcsm.org. when my guest on the Alameda Connection will be Kathy Weber, Executive Director of the Downtown Alameda Business Association. As we've mentioned before on the postcast, it's baby season in the bird community, which means the endangered least terns have returned to Alameda Point to raise their young. At last check, there were over 500 active nests. Cheryl Nelson Embry is a member of the Golden Gate Bird Alliance and Friends of the Alameda Wildlife Reserve, and she's part of Tern Watch, a group trained to monitor the Alameda Point colony. If Cheryl's name is familiar to you, she supervised the Crab Cove Visitor Center for 26 years. Along with some excellent photography from Rick Lewis, you can find her article at alamedapost.com/nature. A side note, the article does make mention of the annual bus tour to the Tern colony, but all 3 of those trips are full. You can add yourself to the waiting list. Speaking of Alameda Point, thanks and congratulations to the folks at Saltbreaker. I was privileged to be part of a media preview dinner where they unveiled some of their new summer menu items. All of it was fantastic, including one of the best beef skewers I've ever eaten. And if you're looking for a refreshing seasonal cocktail, I strongly recommend the Cruel Summer. Great things happening out on the point. Lots to do this weekend. Amanda Laird has curated events for Father's Day weekend in her weekly all-around Alameda column, including the 58th Annual Sandcastle and Sand Sculpture Competition on Saturday, our latest history walking tour, and open cockpit day at the Oakland Aviation Museum. Details at alamedapost.com/alameda-life. Also this weekend, support your filmmaker neighbors. Lots of Pixarians live in Alameda, and their latest, Toy Story 5, hits theaters today. I've already seen it, and I can tell you, fantastic entry in the franchise. If you're a fan of Jessie the Cowgirl, this is her movie. It's playing in the historic theater at the Alameda Theater and Cineplex. Mark your calendars for Radio Day by the Bay, July 18th at California Historical Radio Society. Yours truly will be appearing in a presentation of the classic Thin Man radio show, The Case of the Goofy Groom. I'll be playing the groom. Don't forget, head to bayarearadio.org to cast your vote for Audiocaster of the Year. Sunday is Father's Day. Father is a biological function, but Dad is something special. To all the dads, stepdads, granddads, dads-in-law, and dads-in-fact, thank you and enjoy your day. Find the Alameda Post on all the social media platforms, now including TikTok. Get the Postcast wherever you get your podcasts or tell your smart device to play the Alameda Postcast podcast. I'm Scott Peeler, back next Friday with episode 208 of the Alameda Postcast.